Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sluggo Wasserman back with the 230th Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. We got 40 people with us to start, and we got a full agenda as always. As you can see, those of you with video, the park bench behind me is my former classroom at Capital University. You see sitting in the far corner, Jeffrey Epstein talking with Donald Trump about their next conquest. We are going to start today with the great Mimi German, our poet laureate, and with the mayor of Waldport, Oregon, with the latest saga and the fascist attempt to rid Oregon of democracy. We're then going to get into the Jeffrey Epstein case, and we are honored to have the guy who broke the story in the first place. Bob Fitrakis, our great attorney and investigative reporter from Columbus, Ohio. He and I have been conspirators, I guess, for since the dawn of time. And we've got a ton to talk about. Andrew Cuomo has announced that he's going to continue to run for mayor against Mr. Zamdami, and it's outrageous. In the second half, we're going to see for the first time in public a visual rendering of what Dodger Stadium can look like with solar panels on it. And we're going to talk about the conversion and renewables. We're also going to talk about Ukraine. Donald Trump made another he rang another Taco Bell today about Ukraine and his putative owner, Vladimir Putin. So, and also, by the way, very interesting. We're going to talk about this. We saw on a very interesting podcast called, let's see, the Court of History, the assertion that it was actually money laundering that first drove Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein apart, ultimately leading to Epstein's death. But as I say, we've got a ton to go today. We want to start with our wonderful poet laureate, Mimi German. Mimi, are you in rattlesnake country or in the big city?
In the big, very loud, very hot city.
I mean, the home of the human rattlesnakes as opposed to the
That's right.
animal rattlesnakes. So you're
Thanks.
going to give us a poem, and then we're going to talk with Mayor HEIDE about the fascist assault on democracy in Waldport, Oregon, and elsewhere. So why don't you lead us off, please? Mimi, give us a song.
Hey, nice to be back. Nice to see everybody. This poem is called In This Republic. In this republic, politicians find divinity and the daily hard-on inside the robes of fascism. And their women trying like an incendiary device to emulate the grotesque. In this republic, love sleeps with a belly full of Del Monte peas and the stifled sounds of a child screaming because the monster is in her bedroom. The condor has been spotted and a cactus grows her spikes. Sunning snake yawns, understanding his prey like a blind man knows the sun. Field mouse crosses the road. In the new shanty towns of the wet dream, Americans rot inside ice jails. And in the dive bar of my mind, freedom is an existential flower. Somewhere, in some place, no one has ever found.
Very cool. Well, let's try and find it in this
Let's
session.
try.
I like that phrase, the daily hard on. That's Trump
Inside the
to a
fascist
T.
robes.
What's that?
The daily hard on inside the fascist robes.
There you go. Absolutely. Of course, and we won't we won't go there. So a wonderful, as always, me, full of great phrases and true genius. We're really thrilled to have you. And you may know, looking at you, the sunlight is literally pouring through the windows of wherever you are. So nice to see that on your
Portland,
gossamer wings there. Anyway, okay, so listen, folks, those of you who are with us and been with us for a while, we've got the Magic 72, which is four highs with us. And we're going to start with Mayor Heide, and then we're going to go to Bob Fitrakis, who actually had the great honor of receiving a death threat from Jeffrey Epstein. We'll talk about that. Bob, I hope you have your toe tag on. Mayor Heide, what is the latest in the blitzkrieg against democracy in Waldport, Oregon?
Well, I am still hostile, and I am creating a hostile environment because I'm calling out fraud and I'm saying things the way I see it. But I have to say, Sluggo, I have to share with you right now that my kids wanted me to wear this shirt to the
Oh,
city council
cool.
meeting,
Well, here I've
but
got
then I was,
Woodstock. Rage Against the Machine was not at the second Woodstock. I think they were at the third Woodstock, which I was not at, thankfully, because it was a train wreck. But good for you. Rage Against the Machine. Let's do it.
but I didn't. I didn't do it because I was told that I'm hostile. So by wearing this t-shirt, I'm inciting more anger. And so I want to just bring this up with you all about how hard it is to be a leader right now because no matter what I wear, no matter what I say, I'm constantly being told that I'm a monster because I'm loud and and I keep asking questions. So I guess I wanted to share with all of you, please keep asking questions. Please keep being loud. Please keep writing letters to your ethics commissions about complaints about your local council because we are so consumed at a federal level. We are not seeing the nonsense that's happening in our own backyards.
Well,
So
I
that's
think
what I
we're
wanted
getting
to
a
come
ton
here
of
with.
it, and people are calling it out. The this assault on so-called immigrants, which is, it really illustrates something that was true in Nazi Germany about the attack on the Jews. Nazi Germany was a country, or Germany was a country of 50 million people, and there were 500,000 Jews, which is 1% of the population. And yet Hitler, for all his so-called hatred of the Jews, his terrorizing the Jews was in fact aimed at terrorizing everybody in the country. It wasn't just the
Right.
Jews that were the target because everybody could look around in Nazi Germany and see that if Hitler can do that to the Jews, he can do that to me. And so there was way more going on than anti-Semitism in Nazi Germany. And this, Trump's attack, which he vowed today to escalate still further, is not on immigrants. I mean, immigrants are collateral damage to, they're being used as an excuse to terrorize everybody. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. Everybody
Yeah.
in Germany knew about Dachau. Dachau, the concentration camp, which I have been to. I visited it in 1967. It's right outside of Munich. And I was just a hippie hitchhiking around Germany. And, everybody knew that people were being put in death camp, well, in concentration camps. I'm not sure that people in Germany fully understood that there were these factories designed to mass slaughter people. But they certainly knew there were death camps or concentration camps like Dachau, like Alligator Alley there, Alligator Auschwitz, or whatever they're calling it,
Mhm.
to terrorize everybody. And so if he can take away the rights of immigrants, so-called immigrants, his mother was an immigrant, which there's a couple of dimensions to that, frankly.
Right.
Two of his wives have been immigrants. His sugar daddy, Elon Musk, has been an immigrant. And by the way, I don't believe this fight between Musk and Trump. It's all for show.
Hey, Sluggo, we only
Yeah.
have a short time with Mayor Heide,
So
so
go ahead,
let's.
Mayor. What specifically do you want to tell us about what's being done and what we can do for you?
Okay, well, so what I would love, what's going on is my community is amazing and my community is really standing strong right now. So I want
Well,
that to
we are
be.
part of your community, so go ahead.
You are permanent, and thank you. I'm so grateful for all of you. But what the voters here in my jurisdiction are, they have petitioned for a recall. And so I
Of
have a recall of
who?
all the other counselors that illegally removed me. And then they also filed an ethics complaint and had a hearing. Well, actually, it was a preliminary hearing on Friday, and I was dismissed, thankfully, for thanks for justice. But they are going to go forward into a full investigation and hearing about how they handled my removal. And then tomorrow, I'm going to go in front of the Honorable Judge Bockhart, and I'm going to ask that my case against my counsel not be dismissed. They believe because they reinstated me as a mayor, like everything's okay now. But it's not okay. They're openly disrespectful and not working with me. If you have nothing better to do, Sluggo, you should watch the city council meeting. It's online. You would be laughing and crying and just burning down the house all at the same time. This meeting was so ridiculous.
Well,
Um,
put the link in the chat. I'm sure
okay,
there are
I will. I'll get the link because when I hand it over to Bob, I'll pass the
well,
link.
so
But
I'm sure
all I guess I want to say,
go ahead.
pardon?
Go ahead, finish, please.
I just want to say, I just want to say, I just want you all to know how grateful I am on how you all are spirited and loud and passionate and care for each other. And this last week, I lost that. My shine and my flicker went way low, and I lost a lot of hope for mankind. And I just want to say that it's all of you that brought that back for me, and that now I feel I'm on fire. I'm raging now for democracy. So that's all I needed to share today, Sluggo.
Okay, so listen, put the link on the chat. Tell us, send us, everybody, we can all send emails to your council members, a bunch of
Yeah,
bozos,
sure.
obviously, and they will not be happy to be getting the emails from us. And it all matters. The last thing that people like this want is public attention. You know, the last thing Trump wants, as Bob Fitrakis is going to tell us, is what the true nature of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and with Putin.
Right.
And by the way, Bob, before I forget, you know, Jeffrey Epstein apparently was a personal friend of Putin to the extent that Putin can have personal friends, but he had a relationship with Putin.
So
So
I'm going to use
Heidi,
this as a segue, Bob, and I'm going to jump off here and I'll let you take this over because this
okay,
is the part of politics I'm not part of,
well,
other than
listen,
taking him down.
put the link to the council member meeting and put a link to where everybody on this call, and there are now 90 of us, to send emails to really shake up these people.
You got it. Thank you, Sluggo.
Okay? All right. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Mayor Heyer. Thank you again, Mimi, for your lovely poem there about the the Daily Hard-On. Speaking of which, I spoke over the week with a wonderful woman who is now the executive director of the Pacifica Media Network, and she once worked with Hugh Hefner. She worked for Hugh Hefner at Playboy for 10 years, and then sued him and won. And we had an interesting discussion about Hugh Hefner's sex life or lack thereof. And if anybody really wants to hear about it, you can remember to ask me later in the gathering, and I will share my newfound insights into Hugh Hefner's daily hard-on. So we'll talk about that. But and by the way, for those of you who are new to us, Mayor Heide was elected the mayor of Waldport, Oregon. It's a small town on the Pacific coast of Oregon, and the city council, a bunch of fascists, got together and tried to kick her out, and she, much to their chagrin, has fought back and they did kick her out. She got reinstated, and now, as she says, they're running a recall campaign on these fascist counselors. So you'll see Heidi will put the link to her council meeting, and she will provide us with people to write. I will certainly write them and send them emails. I mean, the last thing these people want is public exposure, which leads us to Bob Fitrakis. So Bob Fitrakis came to Columbus, Ohio in 1989 from Detroit. He and I are both alums of the University of Michigan, which, as Bob can testify, if you are in Columbus, Ohio, and admit to having gone to the University of Michigan, you are considered a fifth column, subversive traitor. But Bob and I both went to the school up north, and he came down in '89, I believe, and as a professor at Columbus State Community College, did battle with them successfully. One of the great things about Bob is that he wins. He wins these fights. So he did battle with them and got tenure at Columbus State. Got me my job there. I taught at Columbus State for 14 years, community college, teaching U.S. history, and then along the way. There is a guy in Columbus, Ohio named Les Wexner, 7 years older than me. He was actually a camp counselor at the Columbus Jewish Center, where I was also a camp counselor, although we never met. He was 7 years before me. And then he went on and dropped out of Ohio State Law School, got a 5,000. I've heard him speak. So,
Hey, Sluggo,
yeah,
I'm itching to hear about Epstein.
yeah, I'll get there. Thank you, Mike. And so Wexner founded with $5,000 loan from his aunt a clothing store in Kingsdale Shopping Center, and became a billionaire. And he did it, as Bob has explained, through mob ties, which is a very interesting story. And along the way, he also encountered Jeffrey Epstein. And Bob Fitrakis, you're looking at him, all this stuff about Bob Fitrakis, about Jeffrey Epstein, originates with Bob Fitrakis, who was covering Les Wexner, the billionaire that gave, the founder, by the way, of Victoria's Secret as well, who gave Jeffrey Epstein his leg up. And Bob, as I recall, the FBI referred to Jeffrey Epstein in his relationship with Les Wexner as the boyfriend. And when I was teaching at Columbus State, I always asked my students who worked at the Limited if Wexner was gay, and every one of them immediately said yes. And the key to that was Jeffrey Epstein, as you reported first. So let's hear it. Bob Fitrakis.
Right. Again, to understand Jeff Epstein, we need to understand, as you pointed out, his relationship with Les Wexner. And part of it, there was a man named Arthur Shapiro, who was the money man for Les Wexner. It later turned out he was later killed mob style in Columbus, one of the only mob style murders we've had. And what was?
And so, so why did they kill him, and how does it relate to Epstein, who they also killed?
Well,
Allegedly.
it turned out that Wexner was tied to the Shapiro, through Shapiro, to organized crime, to the Genovese LaRosa crime family.
Which also included the DeBartolo family, which owns the 49ers. Is that correct? The DeBartolo from Youngstown.
Yeah, DeBartolo was also listed as a suspect in the murder.
Right, and it's Wexner, by the way, Wexner. Now, you guys have, for God knows how many years, have been watching all this media around Victoria's Secret, and these women who walk around in whatever they walk around in, and that was founded by Les Wexner, the gay guy from Columbus, who has a wife and 4 children, and who. So how was Les Wexner and his multi-billion-dollar fortune tied to Jeffrey Epstein, which you encountered and reported on, and why did they threaten to kill you?
It was thought that Jeff Epstein was the replacement for Arthur Shapiro. He was the new money man. He himself was considered a person of interest in the murder in the possible murder of Robert Maxwell, Lord Maxwell,
All right,
who's
so Lord Maxwell is a mafia media giant from Great
who
Britain
also worked for the Mossad as well.
for the Israeli CIA. So
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein waltzed in to the shoes of the murdered Arthur Schwartz and Arthur Shapiro, I'm sorry, and Jeffrey Epstein became Les Wexner's money guy, and that's how Jeffrey Epstein became incredibly rich, and that's what led him to Donald Trump, which you reported on, and they threatened to kill you. So why then was Jeffrey Epstein? What was this thing with the young girls that you also reported on?
Well, well, he had the first real connection was he had the second most expensive house in Franklin County, which appeared to be given to him as a gift by Les Wexner. And the girl, Maria Farmer, was one of the first to file charges against Epstein for sexual assault. The call originated from Wexner's property.
This was a young girl who's being assaulted on Les Wexner's property
Yes.
in Central Ohio by Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
And you reported on that.
I did.
Oh my God. Bob, are we safe talking to you on this phone here? So, I mean, people, you have to understand how deep and dirty this is. Lex Wexner is an incredibly
You got to understand about Southern Air Transport to do that is that one of the things that Epstein did for Wexner was bring Air America, the famed gun and drug running airline, into Columbus. After they were shut down, Southern Air Transport was shut down during, we would call the first Bush's administration.
America shut down, and then they changed.
Bush 1. Now, Southern Air Transport was a CIA operation. There's an airport south of Columbus, and all you got to understand is this whole Epstein thing with Donald Trump, which is dominating the headlines, not only is connected to Victoria's Secret, but it's also connected to Columbus, Ohio, and where Bob reported on all this. So Southern Air Transport had a crash when the CIA was trying to overthrow the regime in Nicaragua, and that came out of Columbus and out of the Wexner. Oh, you lost sound there, Bob. So we can't hear you.
Go ahead.
There.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, please.
It came out of Columbus.
You wrote about it.
Mr. Epstein, I wrote about it, but as a result of writing about it, I ended up with a good lead, the former Inspector General of the state, who came in and said, look, the key thing that Wexner is having done for him by Jeff Epstein is money laundering. They were using the trucks and the airplanes and the warehouses of the limited to essentially manufacture gray market goods, which they moved all over the world.
Right, and Wexner made his connection with the mob by bringing in stuff from China and laundering contraband goods with his shipments, including drugs. Right?
And they were laundering money for the Gambino family, according to a document that was leaked to me, and I printed in the Columbus Free Press.
So Jeffrey Epstein was not just some random pervert. He was a pervert.
Was a Mossad, CIA
And the mob.
organized crime pervert who had legendarily, according to those that repeatedly squealed on him, a egg-shaped penis.
Right. So the boyfriend had a funny looking whatever. But the bottom line is that Jeffrey Epstein was not just some, accidental connection to Donald Trump. Jeffrey Epstein was created in a way by Les Wexner, who founded the limited clothing empire hand in
Gave him a
glove
jet.
with organized crime.
And who gave him a good deal on a jet, which later became the Lolita Express. That jet came from the Limited.
So I think most of you probably know about the Limited. The Limited is Abercrombie Fitch, right? Is that right? And Victoria's Secret, and it's a whole empire of women's clothing. And Les Wexner, this guy from Columbus, Ohio, who still lives in Columbus, by the way, he founded his own, housing development outside of Columbus, called what, Bob? What's that place called?
Albany,
Wait, say it again.
New Albany.
New Albany. He basically founded in New Albany, Ohio, just outside Columbus, an entire housing development. If you go in there, it's all these McMansions. It looks like Stepford. It looks like a place out of a science fiction movie where you think the undead were walking around. And that's where Jeffrey Epstein came from. He managed Les Wexner's billions of dollars. Les Wexner, who's still alive, by the way, is a major billionaire. And he is the one who funneled Jeffrey Epstein, who was a nothing. He was like a high school teacher, but he had some kind of magic, and he and Les Wexner had a very intimate relationship, shall we say. And but he was also, of course, a pervert. And so and Les Wexner
was
gave
able
him.
to find other perverts like Trump. Remember Trump, there was an affidavit from a 13-year-old girl claiming that Mr. Trump raped her.
Well, there
And,
apparently.
and this was supposed to have taken place in Epstein's mansion. Remember, Wexner bought the first or second largest residential property in New York City, and according to property records, gave it to Jeff Epstein.
Right. Epstein had a huge house in Manhattan. God knows what went on there. Literally, God knows
we
what went on there.
Because Donald Trump was supposed to be there, and another guy who was there regularly was Prince Andrew.
Yes.
I got a call from a man named Nigel Rosser, a British journalist, kind of Fleet Street type, who pointed out to me that Ghislaine, the daughter of Robert Maxwell, and Epstein were going on vacation all the time with Prince Andrews, and Prince Andrews was also dressing up for pimps and hooker Halloween events with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. And Robert Maxwell, who died mysteriously, shall we say, I mean, he disappeared off a boat, for God's sakes, was the media mogul tied to the mob, and his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, is somehow still alive, and she's in prison. And all the pictures that you see of Jeffrey Epstein next to this woman, the woman is Ghislaine Maxwell, who is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, the mob media maven that died mysteriously. And she was Epstein's primary procurer. But they weren't procuring young girls just for Jeffrey Epstein. Right, Bob?
Well, no, I mean, so the whole battle for the list is that people that were on that airplane were famous people, and it was known as the Lolita Express. And one was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was on the Lolita Express, received passage to various places. So the big battle right now is between the hard right and Donald Trump over releasing the list. I mean, the key reason they don't want to release is because Trump's name is his name is on the passenger list for the Lolita Express.
I'm sure many times. Now, I'm listening to this, and MYLA RESON, she's the one who referred me to this court of history. And there was a session I watched a whole hour. It was absolutely mesmerizing last night. MYLA, if you could put the link up with two great historians, Sean, I can't remember their names offhand.
Harvey, it's Sean Wilentz.
Wilentz, and who was the other guy?
And Sidney Blumenthal. They're both
Right.
historians.
And they were talking to Wolf. What's Wolf's first name?
Michael Wolff.
Michael Wolff. Now, Michael Wolff knew Epstein very well. And he interviewed Epstein many, many times. He was at Epstein's house many, many times because Epstein, who was such an egomaniac, even though he was completely filthy in every way you can imagine, mafia money, CIA stuff, perverted relations with girls. This guy was a comic book character, Epstein. He wanted Michael Wolff to write his biography, literally. And according to Michael Wolff, who's very credible, Jeffrey Epstein called Michael Wolff, asked Michael Wolff to write a biography, and gave him full access to everything. And so Michael Wolff repeatedly went to Jeffrey Epstein's house, said he was very charming, and that everybody famous in the world, from Bill Gates to Bill Clinton, was at Jeffrey Epstein's house participating in this horrendous assault on young girls. Is that accurate, Bob?
Yeah, that's what the facts look like.
And this is why Trump. I'm amazed this list still exists, and I'm amazed that Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive.
Well, that's the big question: is whether this is what the CIA used to call a honeypot. Is you want to make sure that you're able to set up and compromise people because of the tremendous value for money or for other things,
Right.
as well, foreign policy, diplomacy, whatever you need.
Right. Well, Donald Smith, I'm sorry, Donald, I got you there. Donald Smith asked if the CIA or the Mossad was involved in maintaining this list. Bob, what do you think?
I think absolutely. And I think that's why, in part, the CIA involvement is why they went so easy on him the first time.
Right, because Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in Florida and charged with all this perversion stuff, and they put him in the jail in the daytime. In the night, and they let him go out and do whatever the hell he wanted in the daytime, and he just had to come home and sleep in the jail at night. Right.
Right.
This is
And
after
everyone knew this was a sweetheart deal. And
this
they
is
thought,
after raping and pillaging God knows how many girls, underage girls. Is that right?
yeah, the count dozens upon dozens.
Right.
And not only that, he had a plan as well. Recall that he wanted to do eugenics and impregnate women with his seed. And he was setting up a ranch in New Mexico. And people like Bill Richardson, the former governor of New Mexico, were hanging out with him as well.
How about Elon Musk?
I don't think, I'm thinking Musk, no, because Musk tried to blow the whistle on it when they had their falling out, supposedly.
So maybe Musk was jealous because Epstein was going to have more kids than him. What do you think?
Well, that's plausible.
Yeah, they were going to have a big rugby match and play it off. So now this is an amazing story that I heard from Michael Wolff. Who you have to watch this 100 minute thing that MYLA is going to post at the Court of History.
I did.
Mike?
It's in the chat now.
Okay.
So you can look it up.
Please. So this was a really fascinating story. Trump and Epstein, and it really says a lot on many levels about Donald Trump. Trump and Epstein were actually about as close of friends as Trump could ever have. I mean, this is not a guy who really likes people. So he and Epstein, equal perverts, were hanging out together in Florida.
Predators, Sluggo,
What's
predators.
that?
They're predators.
Predators, yes, exactly. Predators, co-predators.
And
Vultures sitting on a.
Sluggo, real quick, we're having one or two people in the chat are wondering what's the relevance of this. I think it's kind of obvious, but I could be wrong. To me,
Well,
to
listen,
see
folks, if you don't understand the relevance, you're about to hear it. You ready? Donald
Yeah,
Trump is our dictator, or trying to be. Okay. So Michael, thank you for that, Mike.
and
Michael
Sluggo,
Wolf.
real quick, I just wanted to put a historical context on this. Richard
Yes.
Nixon won a monumental landslide in 1972, and he was driven from office because of relatively minor criminality and a cover-up. That makes, that compared to what Nixon did, what Trump did what Trump did and is continuing to do makes Nixon's shenanigans look like he stole an extra cookie from a cookie jar.
Yeah, right.
And what we're trying to do is point out that Trump is on a house of cards, so to speak. And if this got out, we would get out from under the fascism of Trump. Now, I hope that's pretty clear to everybody. If anybody's unhappy with us doing this, please understand we have a purpose to this, and please bear with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Very, very well done. Much appreciated. So Michael Wolf, who's a great reporter, by the way, and he really looks the part. If I was going to cast Michael Wolf, I would cast Michael Wolf. He looks exactly like you would expect him to look like. He's a great, great investigative reporter on Bob Fitrakis' level. So in this court of history discussion, Michael Wolf said when they were really close and in South Florida together, Jeffrey Epstein was going to buy a mansion. And this is such a Trump story. So just as a gesture, he called his friend Donald Trump to go see the mansion with him to give him advice on how to handle the transaction. As friendly as these rattlesnakes can be to each other, there they were. And Trump goes and looks at the house with Jeffrey Epstein as a friend and then outbids him and buys the house out from under Jeffrey Epstein. And then this is what's really relevant here, because this is the whole root of Donald Trump. Trump takes the house, he paid allegedly $40 million for it, and he turns around and he sells it to a Russian oligarch. Forget this, $100 million. Epstein was going to buy this mansion for $36 million. And Bob, correct me if I'm wrong. He was going to buy this mansion for $36 million. Trump steals it. Allegedly, they're friends. They weren't after this, by the way. And he buys it for $40 million. Then he turns around within 6 months, does nothing to the house, by the way, and sells it to a Russian oligarch for $100 million. What are the two words, Bob, that indicates? Money laundering.
Sure, but that was well established with Trump ahead of time, with the early investments in his buildings, which were all a Russian mob.
Right. So the Russian mob at this point in time, and this leads to somebody else who we all know and really cements the relevance of all this. Trump buys the house for $40 million. He sells it to a Russian oligarch for $100 million, laundering all that money because Trump had real estate, and the mob in Russia had rubles, and the mob in Russia wanted dollars, not rubles. So they used Trump and his real estate to launder their rubles into dollars by hugely overpaying for properties. Right, Bob?
Right, correct.
And then guess who this leads to? Does anybody want to yell out? Go ahead, yell out. Who does this lead to? Putin. because all these mobsters in Russia became under the sway, under the dictatorship of Putin. And guess who Jeffrey
They were part of
Epstein?
the state apparatus for Russian foreign policy.
Exactly. And guess who Jeffrey Epstein, after having a breakup with Donald Trump, guess who his next best friend is? Putin. Because Trump is laundering all this money for Putin, and Epstein goes over, and I'm sure that Putin had many of the same proclivities towards little girls that Donald Trump had, and Putin and Jeffrey Epstein become tight. So if we think that this list thing and this controversy here and this festering, sick, radioactive pot of scandal is just about sex, it goes to the mob, it goes to Putin, it goes to money laundering, it goes to how Trump became rich. This is the nuclear explosion of the reality of Donald Trump. The other guy who's been reporting on this, along with Bob, is Robert K. Johnston, who is that his last name? From New York, who's written his whole life about Trump. I met him also, and he told a lot of these same stories that Bob broke with. Bob, do you want to add anything else before we go to LYNN FEINERMAN?
No, other than that we really need to focus on the intelligence apparatus and the money laundering and organized crime, because those are the themes that keep showing up over and over again.
Right, and it's mind-boggling. This is why we've done this. The depth of this scandal is so deep that scandal does not describe what's going on here. This is really, the festering volcanic cauldron that is Donald Trump. LYNN FEINERMAN, and then MYLA RESON, and then Donald Smith. And Mike Hersh, if you want to jump back in, go ahead. But Lynn, go ahead.
Yeah, somebody asked what the relevance of all of this is. I would like to point something out that is deeply relevant. And that is that one of the people who used to frequent the planes, the Epstein planes, was Ehud Barak. Ehud Barak was very tight with Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was deeply into Mossad. He was an Israeli agent. And my contention, and other people's contention as well, whom I've read, is that the entirety of Gaza policy and the entirety of this horror that has happened since October 7th was based, my contention, this is not other people, my contention is that Benjamin Netanyahu and company knew damn well that the Hamas was trying to develop something, and they may even have been in on it with Hamas. To me, it's the Gulf of Tonkin incident of Israel. It is something that everybody knew about, and that may have been, in fact, plotted with people who were directly connected to the Epstein situation, because a lot of the people who were involved in the Epstein situation were directly connected with Israeli intelligence. And Israeli intelligence it goes very wide, very high, very deep. And that could be one of the reasons why no one, not even Biden, maybe Biden was on the plane, who knows?
Too old. Sorry, he's too old.
Never too old.
Yeah,
and Lynn, let's try to stick with stuff we know, because when we get into speculation, people will pick us apart.
This is a big one, Mike. I mean, the question, we know for sure that Netanyahu funded Hamas. We don't know for sure whether, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Sluggo, what I was saying is we don't know about Biden, so let's not let our imaginations run wild.
I don't think anybody's linked Biden to that plane, but certainly Bill Clinton I mean, there's
Yeah.
no doubt, and not Obama either, but certainly Bill Clinton.
No, Sluggo, Michelle would kill him.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was afraid to say that. I'm glad you did. Okay. Lynn, are you done? Can we let MYLA speak here? Go
Lynn,
ahead, MYLA Reason, and Lynn will come back to you, and then we'll go to Donald Smith. MYLA, go ahead.
okay, well, there's so much to explore here. And it's so terribly relevant. I mean, everybody's talking about Epstein and the files these days. So I think it's a perfect topic to explore. And I want to go back, Bob Fitrakis, I hope you're still listening, because I realized when you mentioned Bill Clinton being one of the people who hung out with Epstein, that he was my personal nemesis. And he
Bill
was
Richardson. Bill Richardson.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? Bill Richardson is what I meant to say. Bill Richardson claims to have been born in the U.S., but that's questionable. He was definitely raised in Mexico City. He was the son of some very influential people. His father reputedly tied to intelligence. His mother from the oligarchic banking community in Mexico. And he attended Ivy League preparatory schools, very expensive schools in the East, and then attended Ivy League schools in Washington, D.C., and went to New Mexico, I believe, for the express purpose of eventually okaying a dump for plutonium-contaminated nuclear weapons waste in southern New Mexico. He worked very hard to open that dump, and when he became Secretary of Energy, he was Secretary of Energy at the time that the dump was opened. The Libertarian
Hey,
John-
MYLA, can we stick on Epstein
excuse
just
me,
for a second?
Mike, what are you now? What are you doing?
I'm just we're talking about Epstein. Let's not go to a different topic. We can go after
Thank you.
Richardson afterward.
Wait, this ties into Epstein
Okay, go ahead.
because Richardson hung out with Epstein. And so when we've been exploring all of these different facets of the Epstein phenomenon, one of the links to Epstein is to Richardson and nuclear waste. I mean, there are a lot of different facets, and this is yet another facet, and that connects back to Epstein. And that's my point.
Okay, thank you for that. Bill Richardson was a bad player. There's no doubt about it.
And I got sidetracked here, but let me just say that Bill Richardson was also, I interviewed people who had been molested by Bill Richardson.
By
So,
who? Oh my God.
There was a woman who was a very prestigious gallery owner in New Mexico. And when she was starting out, she was looking for a job work as a publicist. And she was invited to dinner by Richardson, who at that time was running for Congress, because he started off as a congressman in New Mexico. And he took her out to dinner.
Okay.
Afterwards, after dinner, he assaulted her. So that's
the governor of New Mexico, and you're saying that he was also tied to Epstein. I don't know what's with these guys. What is with these guys?
Yeah.
Okay, Donald Smith, please. Thank you for that, MYLA, and thank you for the connection. We talked last night about courthouse, the Court of History, which was really, really fascinating. Everybody should look at it. It's a full hour, but it's really amazing. Donald Smith, and then Mike Hersh.
Yes, I do. This is somewhat frustrating because we're going all over the place. I do want to tie it back to Trump. And I saw a story about Alex Acosta, who was a former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, and he gave Epstein a sweetheart deal, which pissed off a lot of people. But apparently, they did that to hide something. And then Donald Trump, I heard, appointed him as Secretary of Labor. Maybe someone else knows more about this story. And I wanted to point out that I said in the local chat is that the MAGA right, including Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson, they're furious at what they think is a cover-up. So this,
Well, here's the question
can I
then.
finish? This could bring down Trump. So we need to like concentrate on how this relates to Trump, and maybe Putin throw Putin in there too. I'm fine with that. But you know, Richardson, that's an interesting side thing, and you know, maybe the other details are interesting, but we need to concentrate on how we can take down Trump, please.
Well, I am mystified, and one of the reasons I've included this in our repertoire here is how is it that Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon didn't know all this, and why do they care at this point in time? And same with Elon Musk. You know, I am 100% sure that Elon Musk and Donald Trump will reconcile because Musk needs Trump as president, and Trump needs Musk to get the billions of dollars that he's going to need to buy the 26th election, which they will absolutely. That's how Trump is in the White House now. The 24 election was not stolen; it was bought, and the same is they're going to have to do in 26. They cannot allow the Democrats to get control of Congress. They will not let that happen. And it has to be done with money, billions of dollars, which only Elon Musk can come up with, you know, at the drop of a hat. So at some point, these two guys are going to kiss each other's behinds. But in the meantime, how did they not know this, and why do they care? I'm astounded to hear the MAGA people yelling at Donald Trump about Jeffrey Epstein when they knew all along, and it can only hurt Donald Trump. What are these people suddenly having moral outrage about, you know, girls being molested? This is new to me, and I'm seriously wondering where this is coming from. Mike Hersh, do you have an idea?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right, Sluggo. I think that what we're seeing is there are some people, and we like to think that everybody who supports Trump or who voted for Trump is, you know, sufficiently ethically deficient enough to have done that. And there's a very good case for that. That said, this whole QAnon thing, this whole revulsion for sexual predators, especially preying on underage people, that's well founded. There's a whole lot of that going on. It's not talked about. And I think that there was a huge undercurrent of that in the Trump cult, so to speak. And a lot of them are legitimately and sincerely outraged by the hint that Trump or the people around him are covering up the Epstein files, because they are covering it up. And you know, a lot of us have known for some time that Trump was close to Epstein, and that the two of them were seen with underage women, that there was a lawsuit filed in the state of New York alleging that Trump was involved in abusing an underage woman at one of these Epstein parties. And under severe pressure, they withdrew that lawsuit. But here's the thing, you know, Nixon was riding high. It looked like, you know, Watergate was no big deal, but people kept picking at it and investigating and looking into it. And they followed a money trail and they found some criminality.
Right.
Okay. Nothing compared to what Trump and Epstein have been up to. And I do think that this is going to send, I think it's already sending shockwaves through the Trump cult. A lot of people have deluded themselves that Trump was something besides what he is. They saw in him something more noble and whatever, but he's really a scumbag. And it's like, you know, he is. And they're waking up to it. I think Tucker Carlson is having cognitive dissonance. And, you know, I think that he's saying, holy crap, Daddy might be a little bit, you know,
twisted.
Well, you know what it is? Remember Death of a Salesman, how, you know, one of the kids saw the father cheating on the mother, and it ruined his life. I think that you're going to see some Death of a Salesman reactions among some of these Trump cultists, because you know, they like almost everybody abhor what Trump and Epstein were up to.
Well, you know, we have Bob Fitrakis to thank for making this link with Jeffrey Epstein. And he has received death threats. And I'm sure that the people around Trump are going crazy. But, you're forcing all of us to rethink what we think of Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon. Well, Steve Bannon is a serious Catholic. He's with Opus Dei, which is like, oh my God, we don't want to start with Opus Dei, but he is still a Catholic. And, the church doesn't actually have a nice history with all this stuff, but, John Steiner, please give us some guidance here.
No guidance, Harvey, just a question to you and Bob particularly. Great to finally see you, Bob, on a show here. And Mike, how can we get more of this information out to where it needs to go? Whether it's an MSNBC or right-wing podcasts, what's the link or the PR or whatever it's going to take to put this in a body of information that can then be delivered?
That's a very good
Where it
question,
hasn't gone
John.
yet.
That's a very good question, John. And I think what's holding it up is other people who've been complicit in this. There are people who are still loyal to the Clintons, and Bill Clinton is, if Trump is up to his eyeballs in this, Bill Clinton is up to his, where. And so there are people who are protective of the Clintons, the Center for American Progress people.
But is this
MSNBC.
is this a job for Mike Hersh? I don't mean Mike, sorry about that. The guy who broke my lie.
Seymour
Hersh. You're but I mean, how do we think about to whom this could go?
Well, listen. Go ahead.
I think this is some way to, you're raising an extremely important point, John. I think we're seeing the beginning of it. When Watergate started out as some people were arrested breaking into the Democratic headquarters at Watergate. Oh hum. And then it became a national story. And I think that we're seeing that happening now. I don't think this is going to go away. And I think that, we've seen a lot of people saying, I shouldn't say a lot of people. We've seen Trump saying, first of all, there were no files. Second of all, Obama made up the files. Well, it's got to be one or the other. But as Trump is, flailing around, he's, doing no service. He's calling more and more attention to it. And so will Seymour Hersh pick this up? Will Counterpunch? Will, Bob Fitrakis has been doing this since, the whole thing started. So, it's basically, we're going to keep banging on this drum. And
Mike, I hear you as you're talking. The phrase that comes to mind is the Pentagon Papers.
Oh, how about that?
Of a different ilk here.
Yeah.
And how they get printed out and delivered.
Well, I think the key is that some of the young women who have been coming forward, one of them just committed suicide, by the way.
No, but Harvey, I just want to interrupt. There's an overview here, not just a specific, that Bob and you guys presented so cogently today, tying the pieces together. That's all I'm saying, whether it's FedExed anonymously to X, Y, or Z. That's all I'm suggesting, and I'll let it go from here.
Well, you need to look at this, Sean Wentz and
it's nudging, Mike, it's nudging along what's already happening.
These are heavy hitters. I mean, this story coming from Michael Wolff has been out there. And I do want to point out one thing. Mike raised Nixon. No one ever accused Richard Nixon of raping anybody, by the way. But Richard Nixon, and this is critical, and you got to remember this. Richard Nixon's major crime was not Watergate. Richard Nixon committed treason in October of 1968. He interfered with Lyndon Johnson's negotiations with the South Vietnamese to get a bombing halt. And that was treason. And Johnson knew about it and confronted Nixon, and Nixon denied it, but it was ridiculous. And we know now 100% certain, because of wiretaps, that Nixon did in fact commit treason in October of 1968. And he was never brought to justice for it. Never. And people don't even talk about it. Everybody just says, oh yeah, he did that. Yes, it was treason. Yes, it led to 7 years of additional war in which 20,000 Americans and God knows how many Vietnamese died. But, you know, it wasn't a fifth-rate burglary like Watergate. So, what is going to bring Trump down? I mean, okay, we don't know, but part of the motivation again is are Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and the likes of them going to pursue this? I mean, if you look at the discussion between Sean Wilentz, who is the chair of the history department at Princeton, for God's sakes, and Sidney Blumenthal, who's been in the top levels of government for years, and Michael Wolff, who is one of the best known investigative reporters in all of America. The three of them are sitting there running through what we just ran through. Now, how can that not make, an indelible and inescapable anchor to drag Donald Trump out of the White House? I don't have the answer for that. And, I'm just grateful in a certain sense that Musk and Bannon and Tucker Carlson and their ilk seem to actually care about this. And where it leads, I don't know, but it may be up to them. Murtaza, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't want to be the Debbie Downer on this, but I think I heard similar discussions after the Iran strikes. And I mean, this whole thing's been going on right since his first term too. I think what brought it up right now was Elon Musk and Trump were having a fight. So Elon tried to bring this up as kind of one of his little arrows. So I mean, of course we should. This is important, and the truth should come out. But I would not expect. I mean, the likelihood of the truth coming out, the likelihood of people caring once the truth comes out, the likelihood of it actually being the end of Trump is very small. So
well, the first section, it has come out. I mean, Robert K. Johnson's been writing this stuff, and now Tucker Carlson and Bannon are talking about it. Elon Musk has brought it out, so it is out. The second and third questions are the one that matter.
It's not out to the level that people. I mean, I don't think it's out to the extent that most people believe it, or that it's commonly accepted. I think those of us in the know, like who keep up with the news, understand, what's out. But anyways, I just think let's be careful that we don't put too many eggs in this basket, because this might not be the basket that gets us Trump out.
Well, let's put out another thing there. First of all, I believe that half the country knows and accepts that this happened, right? I mean, the opposition to Donald Trump, pretty fierce, pretty deep, a majority women, and I don't think that much of the opposition, which is about half the country, actually a little more, to Donald Trump, doubts any of this. Am I wrong about that?
Sorry. One final note is the fact that the people involved are bipartisan could cause more problems, because you might not see the Dems go full force on this either, because it includes the Clintons. So just those are my thoughts.
Well, that's one of the reasons I brought this up here. Let's just stipulate, as they say in court, that half the country believes this, and half the country knows that Donald Trump is a vile pervert and has violated young girls.
Predator.
And I don't. Does anybody in the opposition to Donald Trump doubt any of this? I don't think so. Right? It's an assumption that he's a twisted, sick pervert and predator. Okay, so but then the question is, how much of the other side of his supporters accept this reality? If it includes Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson, and Elon Musk, for God's sakes, where are we at? And look at when Michael Wolff was talking about being at Jeffrey Epstein's place. He said he's simultaneously surrounded by all this twisted perversion. he simultaneously bumped into Bill Clinton and Bill Gates, for God's sakes. And we know that Bill Gates's wife left him probably because of this. You know, I saw Melinda Gates interviewed. She's quite extraordinary, Melinda Gates. You know, now a billionaire, thank God. She does very good things with her money. And you know, Bill Gates himself has publicly regretted having lost her as his wife. I think she knew about this, and I think that's why she left him. So I don't know where does this go. Phyllis Bray, do you want to jump in on this? Phyllis, you've got your hand
Yeah, I
raised.
have one thing. All of this stuff, I lived through most of this, just like you guys, but we are still making the same mistake we made after Nixon left office when Ford got stuck in office. We don't have a plan. If the shoe was on the other foot and the Republicans were trying to pull us out of office, they would already be attacking and dropping hints and subverting and doing anything and everything they could think of. And we have nothing. We don't even have a replacement, because if we pull Trump out of office, Vance gets in office, and that's worse because he's a spineless jellyfish. One minute he's a Democrat, he's married to a dual citizen, and yet he second guesses, he agrees with all of Trump's bad mouthing of people that aren't male white Americans. You know, and I hate, you know, we're not Native Americans, so we're all immigrants. So, but we don't have a plan. What are we going to do?
That's a good point. Good question. And one thing I want to get to, by the way, is that Andrew Cuomo has announced that he's going to run for mayor against Mamdani. So, you know, but we did have this. I mean, Clinton denied that he did what he did with
Lewinsky, Monica Lewinsky.
Monica Lewinsky. What a jerk he was. He should have resigned immediately. Al Gore would have become president. We would never have had Bush 1. And so now the shoe's on the other foot. The Republicans were quite effective in attacking Clinton. They were unsuccessful in the impeachment. But, you know, we wound up, Gore lost. If Clinton had resigned as he should have, Gore would have never lost. We would have never had Bush 1. So, Bush 2, I mean. So now the show's on the other foot. And you're 100% right. What is our plan? And that's what I'm trying to get at here. Do we have fertile ground with MAGA people who are mortified and infuriated by what Trump obviously did? Nobody in their right mind could deny that he was, you know, serviced by these poor girls at the under the thumb of Jeffrey Epstein. Mike Hersh, go ahead, and then Alex.
Alex, you go.
Hello?
Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I just kind of got in here. Well, not that late, but I've been listening to a lot of this, and I think all this is kind of a sideshow. It's nice soap opera talk, but it really, first of all, his base, Trump's base, is so sycophant. Like they'll come up with a reason to excuse it. So,
Alex, real quick, I have a question for you. What about Steve Bannon? Is he in Trump's base?
Well, yeah,
and okay, so that's one. What about Tucker Carlson?
Well, yeah, what I'm saying.
Okay, what about Elon Musk?
Well, him too.
Okay, they're already starting to raise hell about this. So what does that say about your theory? Just asking.
Well, what I was going to say is the good part about it is it's breaking up their party. They're kind of doing it to themselves, you know, and that's the good part I like to see, you know. But it's still, I mean, like I said, if Trump was to go tomorrow, you would have J.D. Vance. You know, it's in other words, it's not just about him. That's what I'm basically saying. You know, it's all this is. I mean, we knew Trump. You know, Trump been a scum for forever. You know, and but now the good news is it's breaking through.
Well, is it though? That's the question. I mean,
Oh,
I also, is it just,
is it going to be enough to take him out though? I don't know. But it
well,
is.
part of me thinks this is just, these guys are yelling at him to cover their own behinds.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
kind of like, professional wrestling here. They're going to yell and scream it, but at the end of the day, they're getting the same paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
Is Steve Bannon really going to turn on Donald Trump over this to the extent that he's going to help push Trump out?
Well, like you said before, at the end of the day, they're all fascists, and and I don't believe like that whole fight between Musk and Trump. I don't buy that for a minute either. They may not like each other, personally, but at the end of the day, they're all, it's the same thing. I mean, Steve Bannon, they'll find somebody else if Trump's not good enough for him.
Well, that's a point that needs to be raised.
Their goal is to create something like a banana republic where most of us live poor, dumb, no social infrastructure, and the rich have it all. That's it. How they get there is they'll get there by any means they can. They might have infighting on the way up, but yeah,
Right.
that's.
Well, that's the key now. And does anyone else want to? Bob Fitrakis, are you still with us, or did you?
I think Bob had to leave, and I just wanted to contextualize a little bit, if I might. And I keep
Please.
bringing this back. Some of us are old enough to remember that in 1972, Richard Nixon won a stunning landslide, and a couple of years later, he was gone. And people could have said, "Well, why bother getting rid of Nixon? You're just going to get Gerald Ford." Or at one point, it would have been Agnew. But people like John Conyers didn't give a crap that we might end up with Agnew. He said, the president is a crook. We have every right to know that our president's a crook. And they found crookedness. Sooner or later, Nixon was forced to resign. We got Gerald Ford. And after that, we got the Watergate babies. We got a huge landslide congressionally over something that, like Sluggo said, it should have been treason because Nixon did undermine U.S. foreign policy and caused tens or hundreds of thousands of needless deaths. But let's put it this way. In 72, Nixon looked like a dictator and was acting like a dictator. He looked unstoppable. And then a few years later, he was gone. And history can definitely repeat itself, certainly because what Trump did is worse. Trump did not win in a landslide. He won by the skin of his teeth. He won because Musk bought the election for him. And now Musk is talking about starting another party. If you feel like you're being a Debbie Downer, don't do it. Don't do it, because we're looking at something that's explosive now. This goes right to the heart. They used to say in Watergate days, there's a cancer on the presidency. Well, doesn't that, if Trump is not just a cancer, he's like a whole pandemic on the presidency. So let's not, say, oh, it's not going to work, blah, blah, blah. Save that crap. Seriously. What we're talking about here is very important. And if you haven't wrapped your mind around it yet, I understand. I respect that. But my gosh, I lived through Watergate. I watched those hearings. I saw, all of a sudden people started flipping on Nixon when the heat got too hot.
Right.
And we're going to see that happening. We are going to see that happening. Don't give up. Please don't give up. Don't, and don't, tell us that it's never going to work. It's not going to happen. We've seen it happen. We've seen it work. It's going to work. Let's just stick it out.
You're 100% right. I will say, as a historian, if you look at the history of second terms of re-elected presidents, they're always a nightmare. Franklin Roosevelt's second term was a disaster. The only reason he had 4 was because of the war. But if he had to run for a third term without the war, and he righted himself actually. But Nixon's second term, Clinton's second term, Bush 1's second term, all complete disasters. And so to John Steiner's point, and Watergate especially, Mike, you have to remember that it was the Republicans who brought Nixon down. And if anybody's going to bring Trump down, it's going to have to be the Republicans. And that's what's so interesting and intriguing about Bannon and Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk even raising the issue of Epstein. I was stunned it was one thing for Elon Musk to be yelling at Trump about the budget, but I was really shocked when he brought up Jeffrey Epstein. That seemed to me to cross the line. And I'm going to predict, I do believe Trump is going to go down, and it will be the MAGA people that bring him down. John Steiner. So we got to think about that. And how serious is this? Is it just WWF, or are these guys serious about being pissed off about Jeffrey Epstein? I don't know. But we're gonna find out. But you got to remember, Mike, you're very well aware. It was I believe it was Howard Baker, who was a moderate Republican. I had a lot of respect for Howard Baker. I thought he was very smart. And also this guy who just died, by the way, David Gergen. David Gergen, was a Republican advisor to presidents. He was really a smart guy. And he was the kind of conservative you could actually respect, him and James Baker. I mean, they were, knee deep in espionage and all this other stuff, but they were smart guys. Somewhere, and the MAGA crew has not been known for its smarts. There's no like elder statesmen, it's elder statespeople coming out of the MAGA movement. But for these three guys, I don't know. If anybody's going to bring down Donald Trump, it's going to be Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, and Elon Musk. And their ilk, whatever that turns out to be, and we're going to have to explore that. So, and clearly Jeffrey Epstein, who is such an abomination, everything about him, and everybody that had anything to do with him, that there's power there, way more, as you pointed out, Mike, way more powerful than Watergate. And it was, as you'll recall, and this is important, it wasn't Watergate that brought down Nixon; it was the cover-up, and everybody said that. He broke the law in the cover-up. So one other question, and we've been on this a long time. Are people going to get tired of Trump's act? I mean, he's, what Mimi termed the daily hard-on here is getting pretty stale and pretty old. I mean, yesterday he turned up in the World Cup soccer. Trump got in the picture with the winning World Cup team. Which was not American. They're from somewhere else. And all these guys on the team was, who is this guy? Why is he standing in the paint? He's got a big smile and all this stuff like he just won the World Cup. I wonder if people are going to really get tired of this act. I mean, just he's a show person. He's always been about manipulating the media. And, his attack on Iran was basically a response to the No Kings March. Didn't have anything to do with the Middle East. But, let's just hope he wears out his welcome. Does anyone else want to jump in? Dave Solomon, anybody want to? I'd love to hear from you, Dave, as you are the media savvy guy. But we are gonna move on. This has really been an amazing thing, and it's really an honor to have Bob Fitrakis with us. Dave, go ahead, Mr. Media. Dave Solomon has made 250 documentaries, including with one of the most problematic characters in all American history, Woody Hayes. So, Dave, what do you want to say about all this?
Well, I would like to point out that it was the press that brought down Richard Nixon. It was the Washington Post and the courageous press. And what I don't see happening here is the traditional struggle in American political life between the press, the fourth estate, as they call it, and the White House as to who sets the agenda. The White House is clearly setting the agenda, and I think Donald Trump has already made his next move, and he's saying, are you assholes still worried about Jeffrey Epstein? That guy is so yesterday. That was his, and the reason he's doing that is because Pam Bondi made a grotesque error last week when she said, I have the list, the client list right here on my desk. And then yesterday they had to come out and say, oh no, there is no client list. And he says, you guys are attacking Pam Bondi, poor little Pam. Move on, move on. Those are the marching orders. And I hate, I've always disagreed with you about everything, Harvey. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say, I think he's going to succeed in this and they're going to forget about it.
Okay, I will disagree with you on that. I think one of the things that's going to happen, and which this has contributed to, is Trump fatigue, and his ability to command the public attention is going to fade away. I mean, he's really becoming old news pretty quick. I don't think the Daily Hard-On is going to be able to get it up for another 3.5 years. Yeah, there you go. And so, but we'll see. There is, by the way, and everybody, I want to recommend this to you also. Jon Stewart interviewed Dave. You'll know this guy's name from 60 Minutes. Who is the producer at 60 Minutes? And they talked about
Bill
the
Owens.
settlement.
I think you mean Bill Owens.
No, it was a different guy. But they talked about Jon Stewart, who I love, was outraged about the settlement that CBS made when Trump sued them over the what's her name interview, the Kamala Harris interview.
Right. Yeah, that was a complete.
Well, but it was explained perfectly because the woman who owns Redstone there,
Right,
the woman who owns the holding company for CBS, wants to do with Paramount, wants to do a merger.
Right.
And this was very clearly and unabashedly, and they didn't even try to hide that it was a payoff to Trump to let the merger go through.
With all due respect, Was, everybody knows that. And
well, but there was.
Let me just say the difference. Here's the difference. Back in the day when I worked at CBS News when Paley was running the company, and Paley made a very clear distinction between the news division and everybody else. And if it was the news division, he told them to take a hike. And it was everybody else, he said, money talks, nobody walks. And that it does not exist anymore.
Right. And so it was very, very, I'll disagree with you, everybody knows this, but here it was very, very clear. Jon Stewart talking to this guy whose name escapes me, who was a producer at 60 Minutes for God knows how long. And they said, yeah, it was just a payoff. That's right. And the FCC, which is supposed to be an independent regulatory agency, did Trump's bidding to, he's going to let them do this a merger, which should be a regulatory issue based on the payoff that they gave the president of the United States, personally.
You're absolutely right. But who's there to say that they're wrong? Where'd the press go?
Well, that was the press. That was Jon Stewart. I mean, we now have basically Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, and Rachel Maddow, and and Tom Hartman, and Amy Goodman. That's basically it. That's the president.
That most of those people are comedians, not journalists.
Well, some of them, yes. Yeah.
Salty jesters were the only ones who could mock the king. So, it's only about 2,000 years of history that they're standing on. But I just want to point out,
right.
Dave, hold on just a second. This is very important. Joan Seaman put a link in the chat from The Hill newspaper, which is read by everybody on Capitol Hill, the staffers, the members of Congress, the senators, the lobbyists. And Representative Mark Veazey, who I've met and is a pretty tough guy, a Democrat from Texas, said that he is going to introduce a resolution demanding files be released in the case involving financier, that's a great word for it, and convicted sex offender, way to step on the headline, Jeffrey Epstein. So what are we talking about here? This has got legs, the kind of legs that Trump and Epstein grabbed without permission often. But let us not be deceived. all these things people are saying, well, he got away with this, he got away with this, he got away with it. Well, Al Capone got away with a whole lot of stuff till he didn't. Nixon got away
Right.
with a whole lot of stuff until he didn't. You know, a lot of people get away with a lot of stuff until they don't. And I think that this is a loose end that people are tugging on, including Tucker Carlson, including Steve Bannon, including Elon Musk, who, by the way, has this little platform called X that used to be called Twitter, where he talks to tens of millions of people.
Right.
You know,
He's
sooner or later, even the Washington Post and New York Times are going to have to sit up and take notice.
I hope
This
you're
is
right.
not going to go away.
I hope you're right.
well, and I got to say, everybody on this call who's been with us you had the privilege of seeing Bob Fitrakis, who did break this story.
Did you
We
see the
wouldn't talk about
autopsy?
Jeffrey Epstein if it weren't for Bob Fitrakis.
Did you see
So-
the autopsy report today on the Epstein wounds?
No.
Oh, you got to read this. My old chess partner, Michael Baden, who was the New York City medical examiner for many years, he didn't testify, but authenticated the fact that it looked like murder wounds, not suicide wounds.
Right. Because
Well,
you could,
yeah, anybody that believes Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide is on some drug. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then actually, Michael, what's his name in the interview said that he had a broken neck.
Michael
How do you
Wolf.
break
yeah,
your own neck?
Michael Wolf. Listen, I have a very important announcement. This show, and there's 73 people with us right now. And this is being broadcast on YouTube as we speak. And I just put in the chat the link to our YouTube channel and the broadcast. And I would really appreciate it if every single person who is here would like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really need to promote it. And you can all help us. Let me put it in again. I think it's been disappearing because so many people are in the chat. And there it is again right now. And people would go to the chat to our YouTube channel. We really need to promote it. I hear feedback. You can all help us. Let me put it in again. I think it's been disappearing because so many people are in the chat. And there it is again right now. So David Saltman, I see you have the audio going. But at any rate, please help us out because we really want to promote this show on YouTube. So thanks for allowing me to interrupt, Sluggo.
No, fine. It's great. Thank you. I'm going to keep with this for a bit. I want to show you soon. We're going to show you the very first visual image of Dodger Stadium covered in solar panels, which is a very, very big deal. But we're not quite there yet. We need to finish this. We'll never get there if we still have Donald Trump in the White House. I do want to say one thing, by the way. I know that J.D. Vance is a true horror, a real monster, but he does not have Donald Trump's charisma. And Al Gore didn't have Bill Clinton's charisma either. That was a different story. But at this point in time, I'll take J.D. Vance over Donald Trump at this point. I really would. So let's see what happens. Heidi Vertal, I got to email you. Unmute you. Go ahead, Heidi, please.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Oh, cool.
And everybody else, now's the time you raise your hand because we are going to move on for this. But this has been an astounding discussion. Go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah, I was just wanting to know because to bring us back to the solar stuff, to know if anybody has looked at the correlation between the businesses that Jeffrey Epstein and all of his ilk were part of and the endeavor to squelch solar and alternative energies. And
an interesting one. I don't think anybody's talked about that. Trump clearly is doing everything in his power to squelch solar. And everything I read, we're all complaining, and Ron Leonard's going to talk about this. We're all complaining in the U.S. about how Trump is attacking solar, but it's not happening around the rest of the world. The rest of the world is just barreling ahead to solar.
Right. And we're like getting left in the dust because of this. And I just wonder if anybody has tried to draw any of these conclusions at all, to look at what Jeffrey and all of his people that were surrounding him had anything to do with any of this. It's just a curious question that I have.
Well,
And
look at what just happened in Texas.
Right.
People, very clear the connection there where a river rises 20 feet in 1 hour from rain in Texas. I mean,
Right.
really insane. But Heidi, let's come back to this. I do want to wrap this with Trump. We will come back to this, obviously, and it's absolutely correct that we have to keep the pressure on the vision on this, and then but we have to understand. I just, if you go back to Watergate, as Michael has, it was the Republicans that finally got him out. And if Trump is going to be gotten out, it may have to be MAGA people who move him out.
Right.
And
That's why I think that we have to reach out and be welcoming to those people at this point. We can't be just saying, "Oh, we're so us versus them," that
right.
that we don't welcome the MAGA people into our fold,
Right.
because if we
Well, my
don't,
line is, okay, you've got issues, you've got a movement. Is this guy the best you can do? This
Right.
child molester? I mean, is this really who you want to be identified as? It's a
Right.
question for the ages, right? Thank you, Heidi. Steve Caruso.
And,
Then
and as a woman, I have to say that I really hope that all these men go down for what they've done to the women.
well, the one thing they're trying to do, and we got to deal with this, the number one thing politically that's going on in the upcoming election is the attempt to disenfranchise women. These guys really want to reverse the 19th Amendment. And the way they're going to do it, the way they are doing it, is challenging the name of married women. And, married women hate Donald Trump as a whole. And, they're talking about the the Hispanics, the blacks, the Asian Americans, or whatever ethnic group. It's the women who will decide in 26, and they are got a whole game plan to make sure that women can't vote. But we need to discuss that next. Steve Caruso, go ahead.
Yeah, the whole thing, Heidi, in Ohio, and Wexner had a lot of input into the mechanics here, as you can imagine, with the politics. No solar panels, no wind. They're pushing the gas wells in eastern Ohio. You can go to the ODNR map and see all the wells. It's just, the map is just completely occluded with spots that they've made there in the water wells. John Steiner, you're sharing your mail here. What's going on, buddy? Did you want to do that, actually?
John, you may want to get your mail off.
Yeah, let's get rid of that real quick. Take away
Okay,
his
so
co-host privileges immediately, Steve, before we see something we're not supposed to see.
okay,
And
so okay, let's talk now. Well, Heidi, you've offered us a segue. We still have 71 people who just after 90 minutes is what an incredible attention span we have here. It's really terrific. So we want to segue now into what's really driving Trump, which is his ownership by the nuclear and fossil fuel industries. I mean, which includes, by the way, Gavin Newsom, which is really disturbing and done us a tremendous amount of harm. I want to note in passing, by the way, that California has just passed Japan as the world's fourth largest economy. So it goes China or the US, depending on how you count it. We're 1, 2, and then Germany, and now it's California. Another argument about why we should be a separate country. Boy, I would love to live in the great nation of California. But anyway, Ron Leonard, you are in the forefront of this movement for renewable energy, and you are certainly, being in the solar business, feeling the brunt of the attack on the renewable energy industry in the United States, which has actually been led in many ways by Gavin Newsom, as well as Donald Trump. Steve, can you throw in front of us the visual of Dodger Stadium here? I went to an old buddy of mine from the renewable energy industry, Dan Jewell, and I asked him to ask somebody to show us what Dodger Stadium, which is on a hill in the middle of LA, would look like where the solar panels are. So where the deep blue is, could be, should be the largest, at least for the time being, urban solar field. This was inspired. I was flying into Burbank, and the guy missed the runway. And when you fly into Burbank from the east, you go around the whole city. And we twice circled the city, and I twice saw Dodger Stadium. And there you go. All that deep blue is parking lots. Where I was recently, I went with my son and grandsons to the Dodgers game, the Jackie Robinson Day, actually. And all the deep blue should be covered with solar panels. There's no obstructions. It's on a hill. It's surrounded by neighborhoods that should be supplied with electricity. So Dodger Stadium has been designated as the baseball field for the 28 Olympics. And I have doubts that we're going to have the Olympics here, but that's another story. So here you are. And this, to my knowledge, is the first such diagram to be publicly shown. So Ron Leonard, we got an estimate, $65 million, $6 million worth of electricity produced a year, which gives it an 11-year payback, which is a little long. But you're telling me it can be done cheaper, and tell us what's being done to the renewable energy industry in the U.S. Ron Leonard, are you with us?
I am with us, and you.
Okay, so let's hear it.
I'm in the car, so I can't talk long. But bottom line is, Dodger Stadium could do slightly less than that diagram shows, because obviously you don't put carports, which is what you would use for places that cars have to drive. So it'd be underneath the aisles where the cars have parking. So say it's 30 megawatts instead, and functionally that is a large amount of carports. We've done more, and the idea of any of this is distributed generation. You put generation where it's needed, where you're using it, in the load pocket, rather than haul it in from 50 miles away from a large power plant. And the economics are better because of that. The load supports the grid in those areas, and obviously it's the right thing to do.
Well, but it also pencils out economically, right? If you were the owner of the Dodgers and managing Dodger Stadium, would it make economic sense for you to cover the parking lots and the pavilions in solar panels?
Well, Dodger Stadium is an unusual load factor. It has loads, and they're significant loads, but they're intermittent loads. Unlike a building or a office or a factory that uses power 24/7 in a large area. But we have the advantage, except in California possibly, that normally when you have a load like that, you do a thing called community shared solar, where you have the solar system producing power, and in the case of New York's law, 40% of that power can be used by that locality, by that building that it's sitting next to, but 60% of that power goes out to the community and gives people clean solar energy that they normally couldn't put on their house because their house is surrounded by trees, it faces the wrong way, whatever. This is the way that those systems work economically. Even though the building itself may not have that 24-hour load, community solar enables the load to work for everyone.
Well, we saw that Dodger Stadium is not that far from major neighborhoods. I mean, I've got friends who live within a couple miles of Dodger Stadium, so they could be.
There's no problem providing electricity to residential and commercial users around that building, except for what poor old Gavin did to the industry in California, which is more or less prevent that from occurring in the recent law that was passed by the Energy Commission. The Energy Commission says that you cannot sell the electricity to others. You have to sell it to the electric company first. Thus, they give you 3 cents for the electricity and then take it and turn it around and sell it for 30 cents locally. It's not a good deal for.
Steve, can you put the Dodger Stadium back up? Steve, can you put up Dodger Stadium again? So the bottom line here is, and I've read in the last couple, few days actually. So here's Dodger Stadium, and these are the parking lots, and these parking lots are used 80 times a year, right, for home games. And the Dodgers are currently in first place, by the way. I have become a Dodger fan my own age.
Oh my
Age.
God.
This is the city. And so Dodger Stadium should become an urban solar farm.
An
Really.
urban oasis of clean energy, which is what we should be doing everywhere. We should be putting the load with clean energy where it's being used.
But it makes economic sense. If, in fact, covering these parking lots with solar canopies would be $65 million, and you say less, and then feeds right into the grid and powers all these neighborhoods within a mile or two of the stadium, whoever installs these should make money on it. It should be a money maker. But
And normally it would, except for the Energy Commission's recent rulings.
So the problem is not the physical reality of supplying this power, but the Southern California Edison, which really recently, by the way, set the fires that burned half of LA. I mean, they were responsible for torching the Palisades and Altadena fires, these jerks, which are on either side of my house. So if Edison was made to deal with this economically in a viable fashion, then the company that owns both the Dodgers and the Lakers would make money on installing the solar panels to cover the pavilion and the parking lot. And I want to point out very quickly, and then we'll go to Tatanka. There are a number of other things. One thing just came up in the rail lines, and I know Ron Leonard's skeptical about this, but in Germany, they are putting solar panels in the rail lines, between the tracks where the ties are. They're laying down solar panels. The train goes over, it gets them dirty, by the way, which is a problem. But you can, in fact, fill railroad right-of-way with solar panels.
And the fun word we use for that is bad land. It's bad for anything else, but it's great for solar.
Bad land, yes, the bad land. And the other thing we want is, which makes a million times good sense, is to cover the aqueducts and the reservoirs with floating solar panels. Solar panels actually work better when they're cooler. And if we wouldn't even have to build a superstructure or an infrastructure, just let the solar panels float on the aqueducts, cut down evaporation by 90%, run the cable through the aqueduct to wherever they intersect with an existing right-of-way, and you're golden. Save God knows how much water and produce tremendous amounts of energy. And obviously, the aqueducts are unobstructed, so you don't have to cut down any trees or anything like that. Anyway, that's where we're at here. And God knows how many parking lots there are in LA. It's not parking lots in a place like LA are open air ovens. I mean, they get, you can't walk on a parking lot in the middle of the day in LA. If you cover them with solar pavilions, you can park there and cut down the heat and generate the electricity. I guarantee you there's enough parking lots, enough big square roofs in the county of Los Angeles to generate all our power with solar. So let's start it with Dodger Stadium and move from there. Tatanka, you're an Angelino, and then MYLA, go ahead, please. Tatanka Bricka.
So Sluggo, the Olympics is in 28?
Yes.
Okay. 26, we have another election. What we
Yes.
really need to do to benefit all of California due to this reversal by Gavin Newsom, we need to have a statewide initiative to do something like what Ron Leonard said. 60% of that distributed power use goes to the neighborhoods and overturn what the legislature has done with Newsom. And if people don't sign on to that, they don't get the support of people. It's very popular in California, across lines. And so everyone who's running for state office in California will have to answer to the people on this initiative. It should win overwhelmingly.
Yes, and by the way, you need to run for governor. You
No
know, I
way.
looked at the you are old enough, I know that. The qualifications, the requirements to run for governor in California are not all that stringent. And we need a candidate running for governor whose entire issue, don't talk about ICE, don't talk about Israel, don't talk about anything except solarizing California. Someone should run that gubernatorial campaign. And so we need to find the right somebody under 110, but over 35 or whatever it is, and just run a dedicated gubernatorial campaign. That would be really the way to go. But you're 100% right to talk it. California, Gavin Newsom has turned into as big a foe of renewable energy as Trump. It's just ridiculous. And as I said, California is now the fourth largest economy in the world. Go ahead to MYLA, please.
Yeah, I want to thank Ron Leonard for pointing out that policies that were set by the 5 California Energy Commissioners have been instrumental in Gavin Newsom's war on rooftop solar and on the solar industry in general in the state of California. But it's important to know that all 5 commissioners are appointed by the governor. And so the policy that they are setting that is adversarial to the success and flourishing of our California solar industry is directly related to Gavin. He is pulling the strings. And he not only appoints the 5 energy commissioners, but he also is tremendously influential and basically sets all of the policies that are killing California solar industry. So I just wanted to point that out, that when you attribute these problems to the Energy Commission, it's directly related to the work of Gavin Newsom. So that's what I wanted to add.
Right. Gavin Newsom has really proven to be an abomination. As we know, when he was lieutenant governor in 2018, there was an incredible high-level task force that included the unions and the regulatory agencies and the legislature and the environmental groups and everybody. I mean, everybody of any influence in California came on, led by Jerry Brown, and wrote up an omnibus plan to phase out the reactors at Diablo Canyon and phase in renewable energy.
It was historic.
Yeah, incredibly influential. And one of the motivating factors on the PG&E, which owns Diablo, was enthusiastic because they were and still are in violation of state and federal water regulations. And they were required to build cooling towers at Diablo Canyon to minimize the impact on the ocean by steaming off the excess heat. Every new Carl Grossman's on the call. Carl and I co-authored a piece on the heat generated by nuclear plants, which operate at 300 degrees centigrade, by the way, which is in the 500s Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to be required. PG&E was being required to build cooling towers.
Right.
And
and that hot water was decimating the marine life
right.
because of the outflow of heated water into the Pacific Ocean. Go ahead, Harvey.
And still is.
Right.
And so the trade-off was the convocation told PG&E, okay, you don't have to build cooling towers, and we will close Diablo in 24 and 25. And then in 22, Newsom waltzed in and killed the deal and told PG&E, well, you don't have to close, but you can continue. There's our article, Carl and me, at Counterpunch. You can continue to operate in violation of all the California regulations on water quality, and don't worry about the cooling towers, and just go ahead and operate and destroy the ocean. I mean, it's outrageous. 572 degrees Fahrenheit, 300 degrees centigrade, as Carl has pointed out here. So, it's outrageous that this is continuing. Tatanka, did you want to jump back in?
Well, yeah, nuclear power has always been the single most dangerous and expensive way to boil water. And we need to bury that baby, and we need to do it in the 2026 election. Have this solar initiative be the thing that brings people together so that anybody, and Gavin won't be running, but anybody that he appoints or he approves to run will have problems too around this issue.
Right. So we need a dedicated candidate. We need actually, I would like to see if Arnold Schwarzenegger would run again. It'd be a great platform for him, but whatever. Carl Gross,
We'll have a number of young people and a number of people who aren't white as well that will be interested in that race. And
well, we need a designated candidate
yeah,
to run in California. Now, Betty Yee has been making this and that, and we haven't heard from Katie Porter, but we want someone to run who every debate they get to be at every debate, and they will talk only about this. And ICE is important, Middle East is important, all these other issues are important, but we need to focus, because the one thing that could guarantee a future for California is switching to renewables, and the one thing that could destroy California overnight is if those reactors blow up, which they could do surrounded by a dozen earthquakes. MYLA?
Yeah, there's a really chilling video that I'll try to find the link to that was put up by the Mothers for Peace. And it shows this very distinguished seismologist who mapped a vertical thrust fault that's actually kind of diagonal, but basically vertical. And it's directly under the reactors at Diablo Canyon. And the thing that I really want to stress, and I want to see candidates for governor stress, is that Diablo's safe until it's not. And this earthquake could occur at any moment. It might not wait for 2026. It could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. We don't know. And so we're putting ourselves in danger for excess energy that we don't need. We have the ability to generate all the energy we need in California without Diablo's reactors. They are actually standing in the way of developing more renewable energy. And when we have candidates like Betty Yee who say, I'll close it once I'm elected governor, without pointing out that Diablo could blow up at any moment before she's elected, that is something, and that is something that I believe Betty Yee should be aware of, since she actually led panels doing fact finding. She should understand the very seriousness of the situation that we face right now. And that and I want anyone I back to call for the immediate closure of Diablo and not wait until
that's very important, MYLA. And also, the only reason it's even functioning is because it's basically socialism for the very rich. It's a bailout by the federal government with collusion of the state government. Otherwise, it wouldn't even financially be there. They had to basically override the marketplace, which has already dictated that distributed energy with solar and wind and the battery storage is far superior. So it's basically it's like a syndicate organized crime enterprise. It really is. It operates the same way. And it's not popular in California. We need to override it for the safety of the people, but also going into the future where LA is going to have not 100-mile an hour sideways tornado winds. The new standard is 200 miles an hour. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And any wasteful energy on things that are propping up something as dangerous as this have to go right now.
I agree. Ruth Strauss. Anybody else wants to chime in? Please do now because we're almost to the end. Ruth Strauss, go ahead, please.
Yeah, well, Harvey, I owe you and Mila a big debt of gratitude because that was not on my radar before I met you guys, years ago. And what I wanted to find out was I wanted to testify at the Mothers for Peace with them this past week. The California Coastal Commission had hearings. I signed up a couple of days in advance. I did not get an invitation to join till 10 minutes before, and you couldn't join at that point. And I just want to know, did anybody get a chance to testify or listen to those hearings, or is there a way for us to listen to the hearings? Because I wrote Linda Seeley that we ought to demand an extra hearing because it seemed to me they locked people out. Anyway, I'd love a report.
We're going to have to get Linda Seeley on.
Yeah, we'll get her next week. Let's get her in. But
Yeah.
Tatanka, did you have any? Do you know about that hearing at all?
No, I know the one she's talking about. I wasn't able to be on it, but yeah, Linda would know, and we should get her on next week, and also the other folks that we've had on, Kevin and
Right.
the young woman what's her name?
Kaylee Underhill.
Kaylee. You have to have
Would be
Kaylee
a
on.
great if she's old
Yeah.
enough. I don't know what the age requirement is, but if she's old enough, she'd be a great candidate.
Yeah, run her for governor.
Yeah. So does anybody else? We're almost to the end here. It's 3:55 California time. We'll shut down at 4. It was really an intense. We were 90 minutes on Donald Trump and what's his name, Jeffrey Epstein, and I hope John Steiner really had it right. I mean, it's got to get out there. Mike Hersh had great thoughts on it, and Steve Caruso, do you want to jump in here? Steve, did you raise your hand?
And Heidi
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Yep. So back to election integrity, I thought we are going to be focusing on that somewhat, but I just want to get a blurb in that they're still finding greater anomalies in the actual quote unquote machine count. We don't have a human count. It hasn't been counted by humans. It's just all cyber, Gish Gallop stuff. Lulu's gone ahead with her discovery on her lawsuit because Rockland County is missing a few votes. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. This is a nonpartisan group, by the way. So, and then if you go to Titus, he's a comedian. I don't know if anybody's ever heard his name, but he's got Nathan Taylor, who's been here at this show, but maybe was on once. I can't remember exactly, but Titus on YouTube had Nathan a couple days ago, and Nathan is just turning stuff up left and right. Anomalies in all different states, different counties, in the lower races as well. So, you have this gerrymandering thing, but you wonder how the election was actually counted there too. So, this stuff's starting to open up a little bit.
Well, let's do that.
We can do something with it.
Let's have an in-depth look. We have to at the 26th election. There's this general assumption that it's all going to be overturned and we'll take Congress back and blah blah. Not a given in any way, shape, or form. We still have 62 people with us. Let's do this next week, and really get Lulu back. See, I've asked Greg Palast to come on if he wants to join us again. But we really need to look. I mean, it's very clear. The 24 election was not stolen. It was bought and paid for, and by Elon Musk. We know that. The question is, how did he do it, and how do we stop it from happening in 26? Because if they keep Congress for another 2 years, we're all dead meat, as it were.
It's like Nixon breaking into Watergate. You got to catch the thief in the act, and that's very hard to do. It's usually after the fact and trying to sort all that out and then prove the guilt there, but the numbers are just telling us something completely different happened.
Well, we got to go into detail on that. You're absolutely right, Steve. Let's do it next week. Absolutely. Okay. We got Heidi again and Nicole. Heidi, let's let Nicole go first, and then Heidi, and then anybody else jump in now because we're gonna disappearing. Still has 59 people with us. Nicole, go ahead.
Hi, yes. If I understood correctly, somebody said that if El Diablo blows up, it would win the economy of California.
Well, a lot more than that, but yes, it would.
Well, that should be a very important point that could help us, win the election, because it always comes down to the economy and money, the pocketbook.
Right. And it's amazing they can get away with operating these plants. Carl Grossman helped stop one in Long Island. And we got to deal with this in California. It's outrageous. And there are 94 reactors operating in the country and the United States, over 400 worldwide. Any of them could do enough damage to absolutely, impoverish everybody. No doubt about it. So thank you.
In fact, years ago, there was a wonderful member of our No Nukes coalition on the West Coast he was one of the owners of the organic vineyard, the Fry label, and he did an extensive study on the economic damage that would occur if Diablo were to melt down. And maybe we can dig it up at some point, but it's an excellent point, Nicole. That's one of the things that people pay attention to is the economic damage, along with all of the excess cancer and death that would occur if California were contaminated with radioactivity.
And accountability and transparency will continue to be issues, and there's a total lack of it with the nuclear situation. So, in the context that it's going to come in, I would disagree with you, Harvey, not to talk about other things, but just to lead with the solar at every time, but tie it into everything, including ice raids, etc. It'll be a very great way to do it.
Absolutely. We're going to do this next week. We'll start with election protection, and then we'll go into the nuclear thing once again. Heidi and Vina, anybody else want to jump in, please do. Almost time to toke up here. Heidi, go ahead, and then Vina.
Yes, I wanted to bring to everybody's attention the Jimmy Tingle thing that I just put down in the picture that I put into the chat. Because I saw him this last weekend, and he was phenomenal. He actually had an idea that he was talking about having wind power used in the freeways, and he actually started doing saw somebody that said in India you can actually see this at work, and he actually has that as part of this little small film that you can see for 50 minutes. And he used to be a part of 60 Minutes. He had Andy Rooney's position in 60 Minutes too. So he's gotten some of this idea, but he would be one person that we might want to bring on and interview for this.
Okay, if you can get his contacts, we'll pursue it. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Heidi.
Yeah, I got his phone number, so I can contact him.
Great. Also, we've had a lifelong ambition to get a hold of Harry Shearer. If anybody has a contact to Harry Shearer, we'd love to see him. I don't know what happened to Vina Colley. Did she disappear?
No, I'm here.
Oh, all right. Okay, Vina, you'll be our finale. So go ahead, please.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone that the Portsmouth Gas Diffusion Plant is still in operation. The centrifuge has been running since October of 23. And remind everyone we have childhood cancer 107% above national average. And we are holding a meeting here in Piketon if anyone would like to come or would like to give an input. August the 24th at the Holiday Inn in Portsmouth, Ohio, from 1 to 5 on a Sunday. And so we need all the support. We have some good speakers coming now, but people's going to have to look at this Piketon site because we continue to produce high assay and low enriched uranium. And I'm not sure what that means, but it's high assay to low and rich. So I've asked a lot of these environmental groups, what does it mean by high assay? Are we getting transuranics here and reprocessing it like they want to do? Is that what's going on in the centrifuge? But nobody seems to know the answer.
Okay. Thank you, Vina. Well, hopefully we can get some answers. Appreciate it. And your work continues to be absolutely great and vital. Steve Caruso, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, there's so much to say. The one thing I was thinking about was the routine radioactive releases, and thanks, Vina, for coming on and sharing with you what's going on in Ohio. There's always leaks from these nuclear plants that nobody talks about. Constant radiation being emitted from these plants. They can shut down, they can scram and then release their steam, and they call it de minimis. But, you know, we were in Pennsylvania the other day, and you see the fracking trucks driving by with the brine. They got trucks hauling sand, doing the whole fracking industry. This is what's going on in Eastern Ohio too. So, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Steve Caruso, thank you for engineering. Mike HERSH, co-convenor, MYLA, Tatanka, everybody. It's been another great session, 90 minutes straight on Jeffrey Epstein, and we are not done yet. And we're really honored to have Bob Fitrakis, who broke the story to begin with. And they sent him an email that said toe tag, which means you're going to wind up in the morgue. Listen, everybody, this has been wonderful. It's 4:05. We let you go out, toke up, and we'll see you next week at the, what do we call ourselves? The Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. You guys are all wonderful. Still 50 people with us. We have the longest attention span in America. Next week will be 231. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thanks again. No nukes.
No nukes, everybody.
And ICE out of LA, ICE out of California, abolish ICE.
ICE out of America.
Yeah, really. And shut nukes and put Trump in prison where he belongs.
And put the ice back in the Arctic. Thank you.
They should put the they should, yeah. They should put Trump in the cell where